Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, very, very happy to welcome a first-time guest. He is a member of the BlueWire podcast family. He has had the privilege of getting to cover one of the I can't call them the best team in the NBA anymore because record-wise, they're technically not. But they are certainly, I will say, I think, the model organization in the league. So that must be fun. We're going to talk to him about what it is like to cover the Golden State Warriors on the aforementioned Light Years pod. Welcome to the show, Andy Liu. How are you, my man?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing well. Not the best team in the league anymore. I got to say the Suns are probably the best team in the NBA. But anytime you get to watch Steph Curry, even if they were the 20th best team in the NBA, like they were last season, it's always fun times.
I was about to say, it's like what you've gotten how many organizations. So it's not only that you hit the lottery with getting Steph and getting one of the, I don't know, I don't want anybody to get mad at me. So let's just say one of the 5 most important players of the last 20 years. And I think obviously I'm lowballing it there. Might be one of the 5 most important players in the history of basketball, some would argue. But it's not only that. It's like, okay, so you're a Spurs fan. You got Tim Duncan. Okay, that's fun. Mavs fan, you got Dirk. I'm trying to think how many other real comps are there. That's the thing is there's not too many because players don't stay anymore. That's the other thing.
Right.
You guys got the guy who it's like, it doesn't matter what else is going on with your team. It doesn't matter how many games your team is winning. And now he comes into the place. Is it the place he likes to play the most? I don't even know.
I can guarantee you Steph Curry wanted to be a Knick when he was first. He didn't do workouts. His dad, Del Curry, said, "Hey, don't draft my kid.
Yeah,
we want to go to New York." Was 8th. I mean, you guys. I don't need to put salt in wounds or anything. But that was the team. Steph was never going top 3. He wasn't that type of prospect. And his dad was saying, "We're going to New York. Let's go to New York." And I, as a Warriors fan at the time, man, what was I, like 16 or whatever it was? I was like, hey, I'm good off Steph. He's a tiny guy, just shooter. What else can he do? I might sound like those old guys now, but he wanted to be a Knick. That was his team. He wants to break this 3-point record in New York at Madison Square Garden. Man, it's going to be a hell of a show if he does, right? A hell of a show.
I mean, and it's funny. It's actually, I don't mind the 1 pick away from Steph thing. Cause to me, that was a situation that was out of our control. Like, sure. You never know like what could have been offered. What the thing. And honestly, like, even like, and not to go off on a tangent, but like not getting Donovan Mitchell and drafting Franklin Lakina. It's not even that. It's like drafting Kevin Knox over Mikal Bridges. So everybody agreed at the time. I just
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the things that get under, cause that's like, it's the simple thing. It's the easy thing. It's the smart thing. And it's not the thing that you do. But I digress. So yeah, Steph is coming into a place where I think he's going to have some fun. It's funny. I was just telling Andrew before. So today's actually and I was telling you before, today's my 7-year wedding anniversary. My wife, when we first started dating, one of our very first collective experiences together was at a bar, watching a young Steph Curry shimmy his way to 54 points and watch a Knicks win. It was as good a date. Because I'm pretty sure it was during the day, if I recall correctly.
It was. I know where I was when it happened, by the way.
Where were you?
So I was in college and I was taking a bus back down to San Diego. I lived in San Francisco. So it's, for those that don't know, I know you're on the East Coast. It's like a 9-hour drive. And I got in and my buddy picked me up and we went to go grab some grub and we were watching this on a tiny little television, a Chinese restaurant. And we were watching Steph, kind of shimmy, like you said, shimmy his way and miss
good impersonation,
high five and all of that. Hopefully you got that on video, but yes. just one of those games. I think Steph understands NBA history. I think Steph, he's not like, there's a lot of young players today in the NBA that doesn't care about NBA history. And it's what happens when you're Gen Z, right? You're 20 years old. Who cares? Steph cares. I think Steph is one of those people. He doesn't care what the public thinks of him in terms of fans. They'll always say no finals MVP. They'll always say this. They'll always say that. But I think what pisses him off, what he genuinely cares about is what other athletes say. So that's really the most important part. So him breaking this, I didn't know this meant that much to him. and I think this is why he wants to do it in New York, is he cares about history. If Ray Allen isn't there, if Reggie Miller isn't there, now they're playing in Indiana tonight. We're recording this beforehand.
I was about to say, yeah.
He cares, man. Like, this record means so much. He said he was going to cry in a press conference if he was going to talk about this record. So, so if we see him do it in New York, or if we see him do it in Indiana, we're going to see him. I think you and I, maybe anyone, didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal because we all saw it coming anyway. We knew this was going to happen. But
I mean, to me, it's like, and Andrew may know this because he's a baseball guy, but like, whenever like Nolan Ryan broke the strikeout record, like I'm sure that was a big moment, but you knew it was going to end up so far and away above everybody else. Like, to me, we're like, he's going to end up, I mean, is he going to end up with 4,000 threes? Is he going to end up with 5,000? I mean, I don't think any number. It all depends on, I guess, how long he wants to play. And I think it's funny you brought up Reggie Miller, because Reggie Miller was an effective 3-point shooter until the day he left the league. And like, he transitioned into being more of a supporting piece. Does Steph want to do that? I mean, you would have a better idea than me. Do you think he's like, what? Does he have another 10 years in him? I have no idea.
I think that he would. I think he'd be happy to do it. He's not going to be your, I mean, even I don't see LeBron playing off ball as his career ends. Now, he's good enough that it's not going to matter probably, although the Lakers are pretty funny. I'm enjoying the Lakers.
We got some Lakers talking. Okay.
I love it.
They're one of the few teams having a worse like go of things this season than we are.
Well,
given expectations.
Expectations. I mean, they're having probably the worst go of it. But there are players in the NBA. You look at history where they're never going to change the way that they play. I think Steph is. I think part of the plan there with the Golden State is, Warriors fans hate this, is that they're trying to win now. They're trying to win later. So you see them not want to trade Wiseman and Kuminga. I have no idea whether those guys could be good. They could be the next Kevin Knox. Who knows? But I mean, like those guys want to win 5 years from now. And Steph Curry, the beauty of Steph Curry is that he's as good off ball as he is on ball. So it's so easy for him to do that. And I think he also understands that with Ray Allen and Reggie, those guys would have made a lot more threes if they were in today's NBA. Oh. I mean, those guys were it just wasn't how the game was played, man. Now Steph is a better shooter than both of them, mainly because he could do it both ways. Like those guys could dribble and shoot the way Steph does, but that's part of who Steph is, right? And I think he understands that. And I think 5 years from now, he's going to be a guy that plays off ball mostly, or if he's not going to be able to get by people anymore. I mean, the amount he sacrificed when KD went on the team, I think goes underrated. It's underrated because I think people don't realize the amount that he did. Because going into that season, even though they lost the title, that guy was on the trajectory to be the face of the NBA by far.
Oh yeah,
top shoe sales, top everything, and he'll never regret it. All he cares about is championships. But you got to think about it from his branding perspective. I mean, the stuff that he sacrificed with those years that KD was here was just he's probably the nicest teammate ever. Which
is why I think. And you said he does care about what other players think. And like, obviously players, I would guess, care about the GOAT argument and like, or who's at least in that conversation. And that's why I think what happens this year, and not to say that even this year is necessarily his best shot, because obviously we don't know what Klay's going to be when he comes back. We hope for the best, but with Draymond, how much longer does he have to be able to be at this level? As you just mentioned, how long does Steph have to be at this level? You could argue he's as good now as he ever been. But I do think this year, maybe next year, are really super important, because if then you put on the resume, all right, he got one before KD and he got one after KD. And are we so sure he wouldn't have got one without KD had KD not been there? And then where does that leave KD with one less? And it's like, to say nothing of the fact that who might they be facing in the finals? I imagine that would get some attention around the Bay Area. If the NBA Finals happens and you get fans in Brooklyn chanting MVP for Steph Curry in the NBA Finals, and the Warriors win the fight. Think about it this way, guys. Think about what Steph can do in the postseason. And I'm going way down the line here, but what if they're able to beat? You're allowed to. It's okay. Yeah. Hey, look, it's mid-December, guys. I'm waiting for Klay to come back. There's not much going on besides his record. He goes and beats LeBron in round one. He plays Chris Paul in either round 2 or round 3, most likely in Western Conference Finals. He beats those two guys, and then he plays KD in the NBA Finals. I mean, you talk about the guys that have been in the same breath as him, maybe Chris Paul less so, but in the same breath as him and him in the same breath as theirs the last few years. And people
always arguing Steph would have won this. He wouldn't have won this. Injuries that, injuries this. If he can do this season and he can bank
Harden,
2 or 3 guys, I mean,
don't forget, Harden is like for a few years there and maybe not so much anymore. There was the conversation of like just strictly as like an offensive force because Harden, he was bigger and like he just could draw fouls whenever he wanted. Not that Steph's bad at that. I'm interested to see what happens. So transitioning, moving forward this season and potentially in the playoffs, we'll start to interlink these teams and talk about this game. Miles Turner is a name that's been coming up around here a lot over the last week. He was a name that I think some of us had been talking about even before the Athletic article dropped, which basically, intimated that the Pacers would be willing to sell off several parts. And one of the conversations that I've been having with some fans and that myself and my co-host had last night is about other teams who might be interested in Miles Turner. And the Warriors are a name that comes up theoretically because Miles Turner could shoot. Warriors are always linked with anybody who could shoot. He's a good defender. He could do some things. From your perspective, is Miles Turner a guy that you feel like, is he a guy you want? Is he a guy you feel like you need? Is he a guy you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole? Where are you? Have you thought about Miles Turner at all? Probably the middle. We've talked about Miles Turner a lot, just because he's been in rumors since the day he joined the NBA. I feel like there's this thing with Miles Turner where I feel like fans love Miles Turner, the idea of Miles Turner. And the idea of him is great. It is great. He's a tall, good shooter, right? Theoretically, a good rebounder, good, lanky guy, good defender. But I do feel like NBA front offices don't feel Miles Turner the same way that fans do. And if you're going to get that from across a lot of front offices, then we're probably missing something here. Like the guy's probably not as great. There's something probably going on with him that people don't like. There was a report that came out that, he wants to be like 1A, 1B type of guy or something like that. And you're just like, all right, Miles, you're not that guy. Like, just stop. You're a role player. Well, especially in Golden State where correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like after Steph, the pecking order right now is Wiggins and Poole. Are they like 2A, 2B? Right. Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And I mean, Clay's going to be there and he's going to come back as 2. And I mean, Miles Turner is also, he's not great. He's not Nikola Jokic out there. Like, it's not like he's an elite 3-point shooter. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's not a great back to the basket guy. He's not in the paint that often. Right. All that being said though, if the Pacers just wanted, let's just say James Wiseman for him and just kind of make the salary work, maybe throw in Kevon Looney. I'd do that. I would. Right. Cause I'm not high on Wiseman. Wow. I think Wiseman's Miles Turner, but taller. Like literally, that's what he is. He's a little soft. Well, you might want to cut that one out. Actually, Warriors fans get really mad when I say that. But like, he's 20 years old. He can shoot, but not really. Like, he's got an okay shot. Kind of has post moves. Really, like, his mentality is, I'm going to be the guy. You're not the guy. You're not the guy unless you're Kevin Durant. You're not the guy if you're a big man unless you're Jokic. You are not that guy. Right. And I just think that mentality is not going to play. And so if you tell me Miles Turner is willing to be a rim runner, defender, rebounder, I'm happy to make that trade, man. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to throw Wiseman in there for it. I'm trying to remember, Andrew, Mr. Encyclopedic Memory, my producer here. I might need to call him in from the bench real quick. What was the fake trade that I pitched as being fair? It was early last season. So this was before All NBA Julius. This was even before All-Star Julius. This is like 20 games in. Julius Randle's having a really, really nice season. Maybe it becomes something. I think it was, and I literally pulled this out of my ass I don't even remember why, but it was Randle, Mitch, and Mitchell Robinson for maybe some other salary. That trade was offered. Actually, that trade was offered. You're talking about for the Warriors 2 pick, right? Oh no, wait, but the trade. I know there was a rumor about Mitchell Robinson and 8 for 2, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. I'm talking about Julius Randle and Wiggins were in there as well. But yeah, I think that was an offer that was in there. That's the trade. It was Wiggins and Wiseman for Randle and Mitchell Robinson. Yeah. No, but hold on. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was wasn't I also getting Was I also getting one of the picks in this year's draft, or was I not getting one of those? This is in my crazy world. So it was just Wiseman and Wiggins for Randle and Mitch, right? That was the trade?
And the 8, I believe, something like that.
Before Randle had any type of success last year, and it was like, like sell high. Then the rest of the year happened, and Knicks fans in the moment were like, "Are you crazy?" And fans are, and that might have actually been a lifesaver if it.
And now I want to go to some of those Knicks fans and be like, just put Wiseman and Mitchell Robinson aside, which is an interesting conversation because Mitch has not looked great this year.
He has not. I watched too many Knicks games. I don't know why. But
I'm sorry for you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Really, I don't know why either.
I don't know. Why.
But so do we, Andy. So do we.
And, when it's funny because for whatever reason,
a lot of Evan Fournier. It's a lot.
Well, you're saying some choice words there. We may need to bleep out. For what I always come up with fake trades. It's like one of my pastimes. But like Andrew Wiggins, I would bring him up over the years, the last 2 years, really, since he's been with Golden State, and I'd be like, I would rather have the $30 million. Or I'd rather have the $15 million player making $30 million a year than the replacement level or $5 million player making $15 or $20 million a year. And like, to me, Wiggins was a guy who's like, okay, we know what he is. We get what he is. He's a above average, probably starting wing who should be the third best guy on your team. If you have a certain amount of creativity from your first two, or if you want to go for like something that, okay, great. Is he making roughly twice as much as what he should be? But then I'm like, okay, if Andrew Wiggins was on the open market this upcoming summer, what would he get paid? Would he get paid 3 for 60? Is that low? Like so I always like the idea of Andrew Wiggins. And then fans kill me for it because they're like, how dare you? But
Andrew Wiggins would not be good in New York. You're better off without him. Andrew Wiggins is having a great season because, guys, he's only tasked to do like 3 things. One, he's tasked to guard the smaller guard, which he's good because he has quick feet and he's long. 2, shoot open threes, and his 3's gotten a lot better. And 3, cut to the rim. And he's not good at that, but he's gotten a lot better this season. Just that. No mid-range fadeaway jump shots. You're not Kobe. No like weird, pick and roll stuff. He's not LeBron. Like he's not good enough to be the offensive initiator. Like one of the things I watched Julius Randle, I'm just like, man, he'd be really good if he was willing to kind of take a bit off and just be willing to play a little off ball, be willing to cut a little bit, be willing to be a screen setter, right? But I watch it and I'm like, man, this guy wants to be the best player on a team.
Yes.
Anytime that happens, you're probably going to be a good team, but not a team that, you are what you are right now, like a 500 team, right? Like
the Knicks are, you're being kind because the Knicks are not a 500 team, the 3 games under 500, and they're not a good team.
Right.
They are a team that has a negative 2 point something net rating, which is good for 24th in the league. Right. And if you take away their 6-1 start, in which they had flames collectively coming out of their butts with how they were shooting, they're like bordering on like a -5 net rating team. It's not what you want. That's what the team that has been led by Julius Randle this year is. And it is because of what you just, in part because of what you just described. We all thought Kemba Fournier, it would lift everything.
It's been bad, right? I mean, it's one of those things.
He went through a hellacious shooting slump. He's been better from 3 in his last 3 games than that. But I just quoted this in a newsletter. I think he's like 9 for his last 28 from 2-point range. So like for as much as he's hitting the deep ball, still not converting inside the arc. But we don't have to talk about RJ Barrett. Randall's been a bit of a point of contention. And he does clearly want to be the guy. I think what I wonder, and this is, I don't think something we're going to find out this year or anytime soon. At some point, I think in his career, we'll find out, is what would he be with next to a player who he would look at and be like, okay, I'm pretty good. I'm not that guy. So, which is why I wonder from not pitching any fake trades to you, but like, I wonder what he would look like next to Steph and like how that would even work. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he's a lot better with the ball in his hands than Andrew Wiggins, right? Like just objectively, he's a lot better.
He could do more stuff.
Yeah. And I think but also what's great about Andrew Wiggins and the Warriors like about him outside of the contract is that he's willing to take a step back. He's completely okay with that. And he's willing to sacrifice, and he's good defensively. You guys are going to know a lot more about me than Randle defensively, but Wiggins is good defensively. He's above average. Like he can be not a linchpin to a defense, but like he's like Klay Thompson was a very, very good defender. Andrew Wiggins not on that level, but like he's one tier below. Like he's not Andre Iguodala, he's not Draymond Green. Those guys are all timers, but like he's like in a playoff series, he's going to be able to guard Chris Paul pretty easily. Like I'm not worried about that. Devin Booker's a different story. Like that may be a good matchup, but like he's going to be good.
Yeah, that was one of, again, on the list of things that we don't have time to talk about all of them that are frustrating about Randle this year. Last year, I don't know if you know this, he got an all defense vote, which was funny to see, but at the same time, it was like, you know what? He earned that one vote. That's about what he deserved, but he earned it because he was the best defensive season in his career. And this season, he's letting his offensive frustrations get to his performance at the end of the other end of the court.
Frustrated really quickly. I've noticed it's partly it's Tibbs' fault. I mean, partly it's like with Tibbs leaving and then say, you know, coaches always say like, you know, we've learned something new, we've changed. And then you go back to the NBA, nothing's freaking changed. It's the same guy. He's running the same boring offense, too many minutes, good defensive team. You know, maybe I'm saying the wrong stuff here, but he just seems like the same coach that I've seen.
He is. Well, I think this team, I'm a big Tibbs guy. This team needed Tibbs when they brought it in. They needed him to right the ship. I think the biggest complaint that most fans have is that he's not creative enough offensively. That said, just like when you talk about any player on this team, it's hard for me, not impossible. It's hard for me to separate the Tibbs conversation from the Randle conversation, because if you go all in on Randle and Randle brought you where you got last year to now then try to put the genie back in the bottle, I don't envy him. Anyway, before we finish up, let's talk about this game, because I have no idea what the line is. I would imagine it's out of respect for the Knicks. It's going to be under double digits. I'm not going to make any comment on which team I would take. I will just say that like you're facing a team right now that is incredibly inconsistent. We also don't know if we're going to have a couple of key players. Obi Toppin and RJ Barrett are in health and safety protocols. And then Alec Burks, who's actually been very good this season, is just welcomed a new child. And he's either him or Derrick Rose has probably been their best player. I'll be curious what happens, because you guys are the best defensive team in the league. And we struggle against everybody these days, but we struggle in particular against good defenses. Where do you guys have any weak spots on defense? Let me ask you that. If you had a weak spot, what might it be? I mean, yes, the answer is yes. There are weaknesses. Their defense right now is better than their offense. Just that's a fact. Even if they have Steph Curry out there, their offense can be shut down really if you just throw three guys at them. And then you just pray that the guys don't make shots. And you know, that actually happens. We literally saw that in Philly over the weekend on national television. They guys can't make shots, and that's going to happen more often than not when they're role players. Clay's not here. If there's a weakness defensively, and Kevon Looney's a great defender, a good defender, but that's going to be the guy. As long as you get the Warriors to go with a center that's not Draymond at the 5, you're going to have a better chance of scoring on the Warriors. If it's Looney, you can pick and roll him a little bit. He's slow out on the defense. So if you can get Randle against Looney one-on-one, that should be, even though Looney's a very good defender, that should be easy for Randle. I was about to say, be careful, about that, because that's one situation this year that Randle has not really been great, is when he's like looking at the matchup and he's like, okay, burnt chicken, here we go. Right. And that's where he gets himself into trouble. I like what you were saying before, is with the pick and roll stuff. And that's where our offense has been at its best this year, when guys are moving and Derrick Rose is going downhill. Emmanuel Quickly's doing his little thing. Alec Burks even is doing his thing. But again, so much of that flows better when Obi Toppin's in, and we don't know if Obi's going to be in the game. I like Obi. You like Obi? I liked him going into the draft. 2 maybe was a little bit too high, but he's just, I don't know if he's going to be a star, but he's someone that I thought athletic, could be a good defender, probably has to play the 5, maybe a little bit of the 4, good shooter. If he can get some off the dribble stuff, again, like I'm not the expert, but like I wanted him. I would have liked if the Warriors, if they had traded down to get that Knicks pick or maybe the Chicago pick or something like that. Like that would have been a guy that I would have wanted. You just brought it up, and I didn't think about it before when you brought up the number 2 pick. So I have to. You could have had LaMelo. I was about to say I have to bring this up. So could we have had LaMelo? I don't know how realistic that trade was. You could have definitely had Lamelo.
All right. We don't need to bring this up. We don't need to.
I have to. My team sucks right now. Give me this. How much is this being talked? Is it being talked about, or is it you guys just kind of moving on?
It was talked about last season because the team sucked. It's not talked about this season because they're 21-5. Yeah. And look, man, the Warriors were never going to draft LaMelo.
Can I ask why?
Steve Kerr doesn't like it. Like, he doesn't want to deal with the LeVar stuff. LaMelo is the type of player that Steve is saying, like, LaMelo is a Gen Z kid. He's got a lot to say. He's got a lot of flair. And I wouldn't have drafted LaMelo. I just didn't think he could shoot, though. I think Steve Kerr on their side, they were just saying, like, hey, he's not someone that we want to deal with necessarily. And also they kind of thought the same stuff. He couldn't shoot, couldn't defend, stuff like that. But you watch Melo play. I mean, he's perfect in the Warriors system. Like, he's creative. He's flashy. He's just a flow guy, motion guy, right? Like, if you put him in the crux of an offense, he's going to make the right pass every time. The problem with Kent Bazemore and Kelly Oubre and Brad Wanamaker last season is guys that never know what to do. LaMelo is on another level. He'd immediately be the second best passer on the team. I mean, like Steph and Draymond maybe, but like, he'd be right there, if not the best passer on the team. And nothing Steve Kerr likes better more than passing, believe me. And so I think they fell in love with the athlete, which, guys, I don't know, you guys go through a lot of drafts.
Hey, listen, you just mentioned Kevin Knox. Talk about falling in love with the athlete. Anytime
you fall in love with the athlete versus falling in love with the feel guy, the guy that actually makes an impact on the game. I mean, look at why Draymond Green's great. He's not a good athlete. Yeah. He's just a great feel guy, knows where to be. And they drafted him in the second round. Now he's an all-time defensive player, and they went with Wiseman. So, hey, it's new. He's young. It's only been a season and he's come back from injury. We'll see.
I mean,
but, who knows?
I can't imagine they're going to sell this low on him, but you talk about a buy low candidate for somebody around the league. I don't know. I think for what it's worth, there were rumors that the Knicks had two guys that they thought were worth like mortgaging a lot for, and it was Wiseman and Ball. But again, I don't know, how realistic was it for them to trade
50% of the time?
Yeah, there you go.
Would have hit half of it.
I trust. We have an interesting front office because we have Walt Perrin, who we stole from the Jazz, who we love his talent evaluation abilities. And then we have Scott Perry here, who has a slightly more checkered history. So I wouldn't be surprised if one guy liked one prospect and another guy liked the other.
LaMelo in New York, LaMelo and Madison Square Garden, it's like they're meant for each other. I mean, Steph Curry and MSG, like, meant for each other. But like, you're talking about those, like to me, and with KD, I always felt like he's such a great player, but he doesn't have he just doesn't have the sizzle that Steph does. Like, it's not the same, man.
Well, nobody has the, I mean, if you really want to talk about what great players, not good players, what great players have had the flair. I don't want to even say flair for the dramatic, but just like that play with that much joy. I mean, you could count the amount of players through NBA history on one hand.
Yeah.
I don't even think I think you're going to have fingers left. I mean, to me, Steph is almost in a sense in a category of his own, and specifically in that respect, with how he looks, which is why, tomorrow night, Tuesday night is going to be it's going to be an interesting show.
He needs to break it there. I think he needs to break it.
I have a funny feeling it's going to wind up being a close game. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because, the Knicks have played so bad of late. I think they will rebound with a better effort. It is not a daytime game, and the two games that they have looked the worst over the last couple of weeks have both been weekend, like noon starts, or like early starts, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, and you guys are, I don't want to say you're struggling, obviously, but I guess it's the closest thing you've come to struggling all year. Yeah. What is it? You've lost 3 of your last 6, 5.
Yeah. I mean, look, they struggle. They're struggling offensively. Steph's tired. He's in a slump. I think he's also a little beat down by this record chase here.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I think he's a little, it means a lot to him. And when that happens, I think it starts to mess around with you a little bit, just because it's such a big deal to him. And so I think that's one of the things that the moment he breaks his record, guys, I guarantee it. If you guys have me on, he's going to go 50% from 3 for a month straight. Like, that's just, it's going to happen, but he needs to get over this. Who knows? He apparently is playing in Indiana tonight, and he's for sure going to play in Madison Square tomorrow. So here's hoping he breaks it tomorrow. And for Warriors fans, we just want it over with because Steph is hauling ass a little bit out, or he's struggling a little bit out there. We'll see.
It'll be fun to watch him. The team needs a win, and I hope they get one. Although I'm not feeling very confident about that. Last thing before I let you go, you kind of touched on a little bit before about like for the rest of the season. Is there you also kind of mentioned it with the Suns. Biggest fear or biggest threat, I guess, to the Warriors this season? Is it internal? Is it have to do with Clay and how he looks when he comes back? Is it Steph's wearing down, or is it there another team or teams out there who you're like, this team could give us a run for our money?
This season comes down to four things: 3 players and 1 organization. It's Klay Thompson, it's Kawhi Leonard, it's Kyrie Irving, and it's what the hell LeBron does at the trade deadline. To me, it's those 4 things. The Suns, yeah, they're great. But I think with Klay Thompson, he comes back. He looks like 80% of themselves. The Warriors are going to be fine. Kyrie comes back. That team's coming out of the East. Love Giannis, love Milwaukee, but that team's coming out of the East. And then Kawhi Leonard. If he comes back, I don't think he will. But if he comes back, the Clippers are a problem. They're going to be in the second round, probably playing the Warriors. And then LeBron. Like at some point, LeBron's going to say, look, Russ, I've had enough. Get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, what's he going to do? Well, who knows? LeBron's going to find a way to do something. He's just not going to.
It's funny you say that. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but The Athletic did drop the piece today about, the teams that have been, what was their term? Checking in on Ben Simmons?
Yeah, whatever that means.
I was about to say, is that
whatever that means?
Did I send the love note? Is that checking in on Ben Simmons? When the Lakers were mentioned and obviously just from a salary perspective, you're talking Russ there, but like, if LeBron managed to somehow turn, I don't even know what, like, they don't have any picks.
I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. I don't look. They got AD because it was a LeBron kind of backdoor, handshake type of thing.
Haul, at least. It was a lot.
That's what I'm saying. At least David Griffin, God bless his soul, he's having a rough time out there. But at least he got some out of it. Daryl Moore, you think he's just going to say, "Yeah, give me the worst contract in the NBA," and Kendrick Nunn, and we'll call it. This worked for me. We'll call, he'd probably rather have Wiseman, so we'll see.
Yeah, it should be fun. I feel like this season where we keep circling December 15th here, because it's obviously when, trades could be made. I think we're about to, the fun factor is about to get ramped up by the NBA season. Okay. That's it for me. Andrew, you have anything you want to toss in before we get out of here?
Yeah, Andy, I have one quick question as a Warriors fan, because, and I hesitate to do this because Knicks fans that aren't patrons don't know about this argument John have had, but Klay Thompson, were you bothered by him not making top 75?
The second best player in the first team that won the championship was Draymond Green. So there's that.
Okay.
A lot of people think it's Klay Thompson. Was I bothered? No, because I don't care about those lists. But who was bothered? Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Like those guys, you're talking about guys that care about what other people think in terms of players. Like I said earlier, Steph, Clay, one of them. Clay was so mad that it was on the list. And, my co-host, Sam Esfandiari, who I'm sure you guys know very well, he made this point because I don't care. So we talked about it. I was like, who cares? Can we move on to the next topic? He said, look at the guys on the list. Look at the Lakers guys that are on the list. Look at the guys that got on the list that won the championship with those teams, and you rattle off those names, and they were the second option on the team, third option on the team, fourth option on the team. And you look at the Warriors. So you're either going to tell me one thing. You're either going to tell me that team that the Warriors won was so great, led by Steph Curry, that's so amazing. They only needed one guy to win a championship. That's all. Yeah. That's how great. So you're telling me Steph is a top 5 player of all time. So you're either telling me that, or you're telling me Clay and Draymond are not that good. And that's just not true. So like the list doesn't make sense. I don't know why Dame's on there. I don't know why Anthony Davis is on there. Dwight Howard should have been on there. Like there are just guys that I feel like, what is the list part of? Does winning matter? Like, does winning matter, guys? If it matters, they should be on the list. So if it's just accolades, then whatever.
I just want to say, when I first did because I did my own top 75 and I researched it over the course of the better part of a month, which is not nearly long enough, but Andrew gave me a deadline and to rank them. Wow. I originally had Dame and Anthony Davis on my list, and then I looked myself in the mirror and I said, what the fuck are you doing? And I took them both off because I'm a stats guy, but I'm like, at some point it has to be a bigger conversation, and Clay ended up being my number 74, and I think Pau Gasol ended up being my number 75. I will, and I was not. To Andrew, it was egregious that Clay was left off. To me, there were a couple other players that it was a little bit bothered me more. The Dwight thing is interesting. I didn't know what to do with Dwight.
But he was good in his prime.
I had him on
team to the finals. Yeah,
I think he was the highest ranked player that I had on that didn't end up making it.
That's a voter bias thing. We discussed this on the Patreon pod.
Yeah.
The fact that the voting body just can't stand Dwight.
I know.
Couldn't stand him when they were voting. I mean, when they were giving him Defensive Player of the Year awards.
I'll also die on the hill of I don't think Bill Walton should have been on the list, because why do you get to be on a list of the 75 greatest players ever for a season and a half? But that's just me. That's my.
Yeah. I also feel like, you can always make the argument, and this is the one I get the most annoyed about. It's like, well, if Clay was on another team, can he lead another team? Or if Draymond was on a team that didn't have Steph, that doesn't matter, man. They won.
Yeah,
they got to where they were and they won. That's end of the day. That's all that matters. If you want to tell me that Clay wouldn't have been a number one option on a playoff team, by all means, go ahead. But we're not living in the multiverse, guys. There's only one. Right? There's only one. Andrew Garfield's not coming in this one like he is in the multiverse.
But he said he's not going to be in the movie.
Is he not? Oh my God. I didn't know. I'm so excited, guys. I'm watching it the day before Christmas. I didn't know he's going to not be in it. Hopefully no spoilers, but I was excited. Okay, maybe not. God, now I'm depressed.
Yeah, neither is Tobey Maguire either.
Yeah, they're not going to be in it. No.
Maybe we
all of the trailers are a misdirect.
Okay, got it. Yeah. I understand. Yeah. I'm excited. Anyway,
this was a lot of fun. I know we said it at the top, but before we go, can you let the folks at home know where they can find you?
Light Years Podcast, baby. You can find us on everything that you listen to Jonathan and Andrew on. Hit me up. That's it. And I really hope that Madison Square Garden is where Steph can break this record. I appreciate it, guys.